Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
What's up, everybody, and welcome in to the Philly Sports Power Hour. I'm Bill Colarulo, as always, coming to you live every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., streaming across the JAKIB Sports Network, as well as all my social channels. So make sure you are subscribed and following both JAKIB Sports as well as Bill Colarulo Philly Sports Talk. Not only are we live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, we are also live right here on TikTok. So I see some of the TikTok crew checking in. A lot to talk about today. We're going to get into the 76ers and the Flyers. We got to talk about our Philadelphia Eagles as always. But at least now we could start to look forward because some things are starting to happen. The offseason will be in full swing starting today in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. So we'll talk a little bit of Philadelphia Eagles as well. And then like we end every show with a little Today in Sports History. But let's get a little roll call in the chat from the Power Hour crew. I see Fanny Eagles Girl nice and early in the chat. Good morning to you. Flexing and stepping in the house. William Stark, Chuck Hutton, Xavier Spencer, Kyle, WCBJJ, Twiz, MC. Love it. See some TikTok people checking in as well. What's up, Tony Brand X on TikTok? And on YouTube, StreamYard was saying there may be an issue with YouTube, maybe like a glitch or something. So hopefully we're getting out there to our peeps, and they'll start strolling in here. But more people checking in. What's up, Bry Guy? I see a lot of you there. But we'll jump in. People may join the show a little later today, but we'll jump in. Jason A-Team in the house as well. Now, I will say, and we're going to get into it later on in the show, but I caught a little bit of my man Big Sill's show yesterday, and I saw a lot of my Power Hour crew in the chat for Big Sills and agreeing with him. And I could not disagree more with Silio on this. And if you were here yesterday for the show, you know how much I disagree with him about A.J. Brown. But just overall, the over-the-top hate for this Eagles organization right now, I think, is overblown. So, and I saw my man flexing and stepping in the chat yesterday, but we'll get into it. I first want to talk about the Sixers and the Flyers. So let's talk about the Sixers. And good morning, Bridget Tobin. I see you in the chat. Vets Rule checking in. A lot of people checking in late, so good to see everybody. But let's talk about our 76ers because they are back in action tonight. And it doesn't get any easier for the 76ers. Coming off the Milwaukee Bucks and the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. Well, now they have to go to Boston and play the number one seeded Boston Celtics, who have won 8 games in a row. Sixers are probably going to get their doors blown off tonight. 76ers are 3-7 in their last 10 games. They haven't been able to score more than 104 points in 4 straight. I thought they were in Boston tonight. No, Jason A-Team's telling me they're in Philly. Fly Guys are in Philly tonight. How could the Sixers be in Philly if the Flyers are in Philly, brother? Hold on now. You got me questioning it. But I think the Sixers are in Boston tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Where are they at tonight? Yeah. It's at the TD Garden, my brother. So, Jason A-Team, come on, man. Don't be questioning me. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Sixers are in Boston tonight, man. The Fly Guys are home against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So they haven't been able to score. Sixers haven't been able to put up more than 104 points in 4 straight games. And Boston is averaging 121 points a game this season. It's going to be a tough matchup for the Sixers. I mean, even if Joel Embiid was healthy, the Celtics are a tough matchup with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and they're well coached and they play a really good brand of basketball. So now with no Joel and with the way this team's been playing, it's going to be really tough. But the Sixers have to start winning some games because you look at where they are right now in the standings. The 76ers are the 5th seed. And the way the NBA works now, the top 6 seeds are in the playoffs, and then 7 through 10 are in that play-in tournament. Well, the 76ers right now are only 1 game up on the 6th-seeded Heat. They're only 1 game up on the 7th-seeded Pacers. They're only a game and a half up on the 8th-seeded Magic. So I think they're going to fall into that play-in tournament. I mean, they're 11 games up on Brooklyn. So they're not going to fall out of the play-in tournament, even with an epic collapse. Man, you say epic collapse, it makes me think of the Eagles. But even with an epic collapse, the 76ers will at least be in the play-in tournament. They'll be a 7, 8, 9, or 10 seed. So easy to make that play-in tournament now in the NBA. But what we were all hoping for was, hey, they can win enough games that they'd be in the top 6. Joel comes back. But I don't know, man. I just don't know what's going to happen. I think they're going to fall out of the top 6. I think they'll be in the play-in tournament. We don't know if Joel's coming back. And if he does come back, how good he's going to be, what type of shape he's going to be in. But I want to ask you if you're here in the chat, because we've talked about Tobias Harris before at length. We've talked about Tobias Harris basically stealing money from this team, never growing into a true 3rd star on this team. If you're Nick Nurse, and I want to hear from you in the chat, if you are Nick Nurse, do you start taking Tobias Harris off the bench now? Do you remove him from your starting 5? Do you make him a bench player? Because for me, I think that makes sense. They got to try something. Put Tobias on the bench. Let him be your first man off the bench then. Go with a starting 5 of Maxey, Hield. Get Kelly Oubre in the starting lineup. Maybe DeAnthony Melton, Nico Batum, obviously Paul Reed. But Harris isn't giving you anything. He's literally hurting you on the court. So I see people in the chat saying, hey, it won't make a difference. You're probably right. But they got to try something. They have to try something because the Tobias Harris we saw on Thursday night against the New York Knicks, and then on Sunday afternoon against the Milwaukee Bucks, you can't keep rolling him out there in your starting 5 and expecting a different result. So if I'm Nick Nurse, I'm changing it up. And I know Nick Nurse had talked about how they have a lot of guards and they're limited on big men and they have to kind of figure out what the formula to win games is. And I do have faith in Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse is a good coach, but they just lack the talent, man. I think they get crushed tonight. Absolutely crushed in Boston. But, hey, the only shot they have is if Maxey goes nuts. But even still, even if Maxey drops 35, 40 points, they probably lose. Probably still lose by double digits. But anyway, that's our Sixers talk for today. We'll talk a little bit more Sixers tomorrow. Hopefully, Kayla Santiago will join the show, give us a little insight on the Sixers. But let's talk about our Fly Guys. Because the Philadelphia Flyers were the feel-good story in the city so far this season. The Sixers are killing us with Embiid being out. The Eagles obviously killed us with the way that season ended, but the Philadelphia Flyers were exceeding expectations. And it looked like we were going to get playoff hockey back in South Philadelphia, something I think we all need. But the Flyers are in danger right now. They're in severe danger because it's not easy to make the playoffs in hockey. I know the top 8 make the playoffs, but the way it's structured, it's not that simple. It's the top 3 in each division, and then there's only 2 wild card teams. And you look at the Metropolitan Division, although the Flyers sit right now at the 3 seed in the Metro, and if the season ended today, they would make the playoffs. If you look at the standings, they are only 4 points up on the Washington Capitals. The Capitals have 2 games in hand. They're only 5 up on the Devils and the Islanders, who both have a game in hand. And even though they're 7 points up on the Penguins have 4 games in hand. This is not going to be an easy stretch for the Flyers to make the playoffs, especially now. We don't know how long Travis Konechny's out. It just got reported that Jamie Drysdale, who they got in the Cutter Gauthier trade, who's a real good young defenseman, is week to week. That's not a good sign. Not day to day, week to week. So I'm worried about this Philadelphia Flyers team because I need playoff hockey. And I know I see Flexen saying they weren't expected to be this good. I agree with you, but now I'm getting greedy because now that they have played this well this season and they've been in a playoff spot pretty much all season, I want some playoff hockey. And the problem is, we talked a little bit about it yesterday, you can't have Cal Peterson back in net. You just can't do it. You're basically conceding games whenever he's in the net. So thankfully tonight at the Wells Fargo Center against the Tampa Bay Lightning, you'll have Sam Ersson back in goal, which gives you a shot to win, but they have to get back in the winning column. They lost 2 tough games this weekend, Rangers and Penguins. They played hard in both games. Rangers are a good team. The Penguins, Flyers should have won that game. It was just Peterson played so badly in net. He let in at least 3 goals in that game that had no business going in. So I'd like to see them at the trade deadline. I don't think they will, but I'd like to see them get some goaltending depth so that at least they can make a push. Don't mortgage the future. Don't give up any young talent. But if you can get, for cheap, at least a reliable backup, you're going to have to lean on Sam Ersson a lot down the stretch. But if you just have a backup you could lean on a little bit, that's not going to go in there like Cal Peterson did and basically give the game away to the Pittsburgh Penguins. But tonight's an important game because I just told you where they sit in the standings with regard to the Metro. Well, if they fall out of the top 3 in the Metro, which is a real possibility with all the teams in the Metro vying for that 3rd spot, well, now we got to look at the wild card. And right now, the Philadelphia Flyers would be on the outside looking in of the wild card. They're actually 2 points behind the Tampa Bay Lightning, who they play tonight. So this is an important game for the Flyers to try to get back in the winning column after losing 2 straight. And to maybe make up some ground, not only in the Metro, but in the wild card if the Metro turns out that somebody catches them like the Capitals, the Devils, the Islanders, the Penguins. I mean, it is jam-packed. And they're going to have to do it without Travis Konechny and without Jamie Drysdale. Maybe Konechny's back in the lineup tonight. I'm still waiting for that report. But as of right now, haven't seen anything that he's playing. So we'll see. But that's the game I'm actually going to be watching. I will not be watching the Sixers and the Celtics. At commercial breaks, I'll jump over. But I'm watching the Fly Guys because I like the way they play. They play hard, man. They leave it all out on the line. They stick up for each other. They block shots. They put their body on the line. I like the way this Flyers team plays. And I want to ask you another question. Since we're on hockey and the way this Flyers team plays and how they stick up for each other, I was listening to 97.5 The Fanatic yesterday. And as some of you know, I do a show every Saturday, Sunday for The Fanatic. And I was listening to the best show ever yesterday with Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. And they were asking a question about hockey. and whether or not we agree with fighting in hockey and whether or not we agree with the prearranged fights in hockey. Because on Saturday against the New York Rangers, it was the fight of the year. You heard me talk about it yesterday. The fight of the year, not only for the Philadelphia Flyers, not only for the Rangers, but really the NHL between Nick Delorier and Matt Remp. Big boy, Matt Remp. But now Matt Remp not only fights Delorier, but ends up fighting the next day as well. I think he's got like 3 or 4 fights in the last week, something crazy. Delorier's got, big mark on his forehead. He's trying to fight again on Sunday against the Penguins. I mean, these guys are just a different level of toughness, NHL players. But every so often the question comes up about, should hockey have fighting? Should fighting be permitted in the NHL? And I'm curious if you're here in the chat, what your position is on fighting in hockey. Because yes, and what they were talking about yesterday on Best Show Ever is as we start to learn more about head injuries and you start to see some of these documentaries about these guys who were enforcers and fighters, that they develop all types of issues down the line, CTE and brain injury and all that stuff. But yes, safety and health should be top priority. So I don't want to ignore that. I'm not downplaying that. If the NHL can do things to maybe help with that, I'm all for it. But you cannot eliminate fighting from hockey. You can't. You cannot eliminate fighting from hockey. Anyone who's ever played hockey, fighting is an important part of the game. And it's not only an important part of the game because, it gets the fans going or it gets your team, maybe changes momentum, and it does do that. I mean, we've seen when you fight at the right time, it can really change the entire momentum of a game because everybody on the bench perks up. I mean, if you've ever played hockey at any level, if there's been a little bit of a fight, sometimes it's not as serious of a fight as what you're seeing in the NHL, but whenever there's been a scuffle on the ice, everybody immediately jumps up. You're in, you're focused, you're energized. But the reason why I think hockey is necessary is not only because it changes momentum, not only because it gets the crowd in it or anything like that. I think you need to have the fear of dropping your gloves if you take a cheap shot at somebody. Because it's the only sport, because I've had people make the argument, well, it's the only sport where you're allowed to fight. Well, it's also the only sport of the major 4 where you're moving faster than you could on your bare feet. Look, in football, you're running. In basketball, you're running. In baseball, you're running. In hockey, you are literally on skates, moving at an intense speed. The collisions in hockey are a lot faster. I'm not saying it's a tougher sport than football or any of these other sports, but because you're moving at such a quicker speed, there has to be that fear that if you run at a guy, if you take a shot at a guy, you're also carrying a wooden stick that you could easily swing around. There has to be some sort of fear that if you're going to do something, you're going to take a run at one of my guys, well, now you're going to have to own up to it, and you're going to have to drop the gloves, and you're going to have to stick up for yourself if you're going to take a run at one of my players. I think it's a necessary part of the game. It's always been in the game. I think it should always be in the game. Now, if they want to make it where it's safer, where the health of the players obviously should be a priority, and they have to figure that out. But you can't eliminate fighting from hockey, in my opinion. I think it's necessary. And TikTok, you guys can't see some of the comments here on YouTube, but I want to watch some of this. What do we got here? They need to make a fighting hockey emoji. Hockey is a true gladiator sport. I love how they fight and then get a beer afterward. Enforcers in every sport are necessary. That was my position in high school. Sidney Crosby has major brain damage because no one protected him. What else we got here? Love that about hockey. Transistor Zen. I love the fighting in hockey until I learned that the players ask each other if they want to go much of the time. To me, that cheapens it because the fights are for spectacle. That's not 100% accurate, Transistor Zen. Yes, they ask the guy if they want to go, but that's because there's a mutual respect upon these enforcers. There's a mutual respect sometimes that it is a part of the game. They're not always just going after each other like a fight in a bar where you're trying to get after somebody because, they pissed you off for certain reasons. A lot of times these fights are a part of the game where look, if you took a cheap shot at a guy, you're going to have to go. And on Saturday, Delorier went to Matt Remp before the game and said, "You want to go today?" And they went. Now, that's another question entirely. So one is, should fighting be in the game at all? I think it should. Well, then what Transistor Zen's talking about is, well, should the prearranged fights be in the game? Because on Saturday, yes, Delorier and Remp, Delorier went up to him before the game in warmups and asked him if he wanted to fight that day. And he said yes. So that's a whole other question. But I think you need the enforcers in hockey. I think you need it. Because unlike, football, where, you get a penalty and, it's a 15-yarder for a personal foul, in hockey, 2-minute minor or even a 5-minute major, it's not going to deter players from taking runs at star players. It's just not. You need the enforcer. You know what made Wayne Gretzky so good is he had Marty McSorley on his damn team. You have to have a guy that's able to open up the ice where the other team knows you're going to take a run at one of our players, you're going to have to answer for it. So I'm all for it, but it was an interesting question that came up on the Fanatic on yesterday. It was yesterday's show. But Fly Guys are back in action tonight. Let's hope with Sam Ersson in net, they can get back in the winning column. Losers of 2 straight, the Lightning winners of 2 straight. So we'll see what breaks. But they are at the Wells Fargo Center tonight, Jason A-Team. Sixers are in Boston. Flyers are home in Philadelphia. I see most of you saying you like fighting in hockey. So that's good. All right, well, let's jump over. Let's talk a little Philadelphia Eagles. Because yesterday on the show, I was a little upset. And I was a little upset because I just can't take all of the over negativity and the over-the-top negativity and drama surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles, man. And what I don't understand is I get why people are upset with the way the season ended. I'm not happy either that the season ended the way it did. But what I don't understand is where this over-the-top hate and negativity and aggression towards the Philadelphia Eagles organization is coming from. A team that was in the Super Bowl a little over a year ago, and now we want to act like this is the worst-run organization in the history of all of sports. Where is that coming from? Where is it coming from that a team that has had more success than most NFL organizations over the last 20 years, now all of a sudden we want to sit here after an 11-6 season, mind you, 1 year removed from a Super Bowl, and we want to come up here and we want to just spew hate and over-the-top negativity about this organization. Where is that coming from? And I see Shooter McGavin in the chat, and this is what the typical response is. Because it's the worst collapse in history. Who cares about 2 years ago? And we've talked about this before. The only reason why it was the worst collapse in history was because they won games in the beginning of the year that they shouldn't have won. They weren't that good. They weren't a 10-1 football team. They weren't good enough to keep winning football games. Did they collapse? Yes, they collapsed down the stretch. But once again, even if they had this epic collapse, why do we sit here now? Why do we sit here now and spew so much hate and negativity towards this organization like they are the worst run organization in the NFL? Where is that coming from? Am I happy with Howie Roseman and what he did last year? No way. Do I like the way Howie Roseman built that defense last year? Not even close. Was I happy with the job that Nicky Sirianni did? Call him Nicky. Nicky Sirianni did down the stretch? No. But to be over the top negative now, like they're the worst run organization in the entire NFL, in the entire sports community, is ridiculous. It is so over the top ridiculous. And it's not just with the A.J. Brown crap. It's over the top. Completely over the top. And look, we got to take a break. But when we get back, and I see Shooter McGavin in the chat, this is a pathetic take. Listen, man, you want negativity, tune in to Cilio. I'm not going to give you negativity just for the sake of being negativity. And I like Sills. This isn't a shot on him. But Sills is over the top negative right now about the Eagles. And I completely disagree with him. It was a bad year. Yeah, it was a bad year. But to sit here now and act like this organization is an absolute disaster is freaking ridiculous. It is over the top ridiculous. They need to do a better job. Absolutely, they have to do a better job. Howie Roseman failed this team last year in the way he built the defense. Nick Sirianni didn't do a good job as head coach. Jalen Hurts, too many turnovers. There were problems on this team. But the over-the-top negativity is overblown. And when we get back, I want to talk more about that. We'll talk about the combine. We'll talk about free agency. Get me all worked up again. Stay tuned. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. We'll be right back.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back in to the Philly Sports Power Hour. I'm Bill Colarulo. Spending this Tuesday with you. I appreciate all of you here. Even my negative crew in the chat. I see you, but I appreciate you here. I respect your opinions. I disagree with them, but I respect them. What else we got? Primitive Fox Gaming. Good to see you, man. Welcome into the show. So let's talk, because I've just said before the break. Hold on. And Shooter McGavin, which Bucks? You talking about the Tampa Bay Bucks? You talking about the Milwaukee Bucks? Which ones you talking about? But I can't stand this over-the-top negativity right now about this Eagles organization. And I'm not going to come up here and say that last year was a good season. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Howie Roseman did a good job last year, or that Nick Sirianni did a good job, or that Jalen Hurts had a great season. There were a lot of problems with this Eagles team last year. But to sit here now and try to spin the narrative that this is one of the worst run organizations in the entire NFL is so over the top outrageous that I can't believe there are people saying this. I can't believe there are people in the chat engaging with this when this has been one of the most successful organizations over the last 20 years. So let me ask you in the chat, because I know everybody respects the Green Bay Packers organization. Everybody loves the Green Bay Packers. They do it right. The Green Bay Packers do such a great job. Green Bay Packers haven't won a Super Bowl since 2010. But I don't hear anybody talking about how the Green Bay Packers are a horribly run organization. I don't hear anybody calling for their owner is ridiculous and their general manager stinks and their head coach is a clown. No one talks about that. They haven't won a Super Bowl since 2010. And you look at the Philadelphia Eagles organization. Under Jeffrey Lurie as owner, they have been to the playoffs 18 times. You look at just from 2000. Let's look at the last 23 years. The Eagles have made the playoffs 16 times since 2000. 16 times. There are only two teams in the entire NFL who have made the playoffs more than the Philadelphia Eagles since 2000. The New England Patriots, the freaking Patriots with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers have made it 17 times. But the Packers haven't won a Super Bowl in 14 years. You have to go all the way back to 2010. And before 2010, they hadn't been to a Super Bowl since 1997. So people want to sit here and act like this Philadelphia Eagles organization is so badly run. Oh, they're terrible. They're a joke. Howie Roseman is a joke. Jeffrey Lurie can't stop meddling. Oh, they are literally one of the most successful organizations in the last 23 years. So where are we getting this narrative that they're a badly run organization? Where is that coming from? It's the same crap about A.J. Brown. Where is that coming from? Who is creating this narrative? Green Bay Packers are the only team in the NFC who have made the playoffs more than your Philadelphia Eagles in the last 23 years. That's it. And I see Jason 18. We only have one Super Bowl. The Green Bay Packers haven't won a Super Bowl since 2010. Yeah, I'm not happy. I want more Super Bowl wins too. But I'm not talking about, look, you want to go back to the Packers. Okay, they won Super Bowls in the 90s. The Cowboys won Super Bowls in the 90s. I'm talking about recent. I'm talking about under Jeffrey Lurie, under the organization as it is structured right now. I don't care who owned the damn team before Lurie. I don't care who was general manager before Andy Reid came in and then Howie Roseman took over. I don't give a crap about that. What I'm talking about is the organization as it is structured right now, because that's who all of you and all of the talking heads who want to act as if this is the worst organization in all of sports, that's who they're talking about. So let's look at this organization. And this organization has been to a lot of NFC championship games, has now been to 3 Super Bowls, won one in 2017, and we're literally a freaking half away from winning another one last year that I still am not over. But to sit here now and act like they are such a horribly run organization is insane. It's insane. It's over the top. It's a negative narrative that's being spun, and it's just not accurate. It's just not. Look, it's easy to just say things. It's easy to just say they're clowns and this and that. Look at the freaking facts. Since 2017, you want to go to just 2017. I was talking about from 2000. Just look at 2017. The Eagles have been in the playoffs 6 out of 7 seasons. The only other 2 teams who have done that are Kansas City and Buffalo. There's not an NFC team who's made the playoffs more since 2017 than the Philadelphia Eagles. But they're a clown organization. Howie Roseman's a clown. Lurie's a clown. Sirianni's a clown. They're horrible. Worst organization in the world. Look at the damn facts. Yeah, I wish they won more Super Bowls. I wish they won more big games. They've won one a lot sooner than a lot of other teams. I mean, you look at the last, let's just go look. I'm going to pull out. I want to see the last few Super Bowl winners. Oh, my computer's frozen now? What the hell, man? Right on time. My computer froze. I don't know what's going on. Let's just look at the last Super Bowl winners. I'll try to go off of memory then. Who's won a Super Bowl since the Eagles won in 17? You had the Patriots in 18. So Super Bowl 53 was the Patriots, right? Super Bowl 54 was the Chiefs. Super Bowl 55 was who? Who won Super Bowl 55? Give it to me if you got it. Super Bowl 55, was that the Rams year? Or did they win 56? No, 55 was, 55 was the Rams, I think. Oh, that was the Tampa, the Bucks. There we go. So you got the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Rams, and the Chiefs. So we want to sit here and we want to act as if this is a clown organization when literally there's only been 5 organizations, 5 out of 32 teams who have won a Super Bowl since the Philadelphia Eagles won their Super Bowl in 2017, right? You've had the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Rams, the Bucks. Who was the other one? Now I'm drawing a blank again. Chiefs, the Patriots, Rams. There they go. I see him. Matt Beach. I appreciate it, Matt. So only 4 organizations. So we're going to sit here. Who cares about 60 years before that? I see Shooter McGavin. Who cares about 60 years before that? Jeffrey Lurie didn't own the damn team 60 years before that. Howie Roseman wasn't the general manager 60 years before that. You can't keep spinning narratives to fit your arguments. If you are saying that Jeffrey Lurie's a clown and Howie Roseman's a clown and Nick Sirianni is a clown, I don't give a crap about 60 years ago. I'm talking about since 2017 when they won a Super Bowl with Howie Roseman as the general manager, with Jeffrey Lurie as the owner. They have had more success than any other team in the NFC. It's ridiculous. The over-the-top negativity is ridiculous. And I know you guys call me Bill Spadaro. I am not here trying to defend the Philadelphia Eagles. I just don't understand why us as Eagles fans want to be over-the-top negative. Should we be critical? Yes. There's a difference. Does Howie Roseman need to change his philosophy on how he builds defenses? Yes. They need to go out in free agency, which we'll talk about in a second. They need to go out in free agency and sign a stud linebacker. They need to sign a safety. They need to do better in the draft. That is being critical when it's warranted. But to talk about over-the-top negativity like this is the worst-run organization is insane. I'm moving on. I'm done with it. I'm so sick and tired of it. And I'm tired of talking about what happened last season. There are a million reasons why the season collapsed the way it did. A million reasons. But as we sit here today, what is it, February 28th, February 27th, the start of the combine, free agency 2 weeks away, Eagles are in a really good spot. A really good spot. They got a lot of draft picks. They received the best haul of compensatory picks this year. They got a third-round pick, 3 fifth-round picks because they lost Hargrave, Sayamala, Dillard, and Edwards last year. So now they sit there. They got the 22nd overall pick in the first round. They have the New Orleans Saints second-round pick at number 50. They have their own second-round pick at number 53. They pick up the third-round compensatory pick. They got 4 picks in the 5th round, and they have a pick in the 6th round. Now, what Howie Roseman does with them is a whole different story. Because Howie Roseman 100% needs to do better at drafting. He did a great job this past season with Jalen Carter, probably an easy pick. But in addition to Jalen Carter, I'll give him credit. I like the Sidney Brown draft pick. Tyler Steen has potential to grow into a solid guard in this league. The Keely Ringo move looked like that's going to be a good move to get a guy in the 4th round that has the potential to be a shutdown corner. So I'll give him some credit on this draft. And I'm not ruling out Nolan Smith just yet. We have to see. But he has to do better because that has been one area that Sirianni has really struggled. Excuse me, not Sirianni. That Howie Roseman has really struggled is the draft. So we'll talk more about the draft as it gets here. But before the draft, I know we have the combine today. But before the draft, we have free agency. And we talked about this yesterday. The Philadelphia Eagles, with the salary cap increase to an unprecedented high, are going to have tons of money to spend. They have $27 million right now. They're going to very easily get that up to $50 million. Very easily. So really, anybody we want in free agency, we can get. So for me, here's my list of priorities. And then I'll tell you the players I want. I know there's a lot of chatter about corner. A lot of people want cornerback. They want them to go out and sign a stud corner. I wouldn't be angry if they did that. But for me, that's number 4 on my list when I look at that defense. I put corner at number 4, not number 1. A lot of people have him at number 1. Look at, I see future of men. No one said this is the Patriots dynasty, brother. I'm not acting like this team ended the season in a great way. Should we have been angry about the way the season ended? Of course we should have been angry. What I'm talking about is the over-the-top crap that this is a horribly run organization. It's not accurate. And future of men, I'm not accepting mediocrity. I just told you they've had more success in the last 6 years than any other team in the NFC. Any other team. There's no team in the NFC who's won more Super Bowls since 2017. There's no team in the NFC who's been to the playoffs more than the Eagles since 2017. So that's not mediocrity to me. Do I wish they would have won another Super Bowl? Absolutely. But it's not mediocrity when you literally have had more success than any other team in the NFC in the last 6 years, last 7 years. But I'm sticking with the free agents here for a second. So for me, I have corner at number 4. And the reason why I have corner at number 4 is I don't think the cornerback position is in as bad of shape as some people think it is. You have Darius Slay still coming back. Say what you want about Slay. Is he still an all-pro? Probably not. But he's still playing at a decent level. I'm still okay with Darius Slay on the outside. And I think some people forget some of the young corners they still have on this team. Kelee Ringo showed us a lot of promise this year when he was in there. I'm excited to see what Kelee Ringo is going to do with another year under his belt, with Vic Fangio, who from all accounts is a great teacher of young men when it comes to defense. So I expect Kelee Ringo to make a big leap next year. You also have Eli Ricks, who battled last year. It'll be nice to see what he does with another season under his belt, with Vic Fangio keeping him around and teaching him how to play. But the biggest one, and I see China Rat in the chat saying this, is Isaiah Rodgers. Isaiah Rodgers was a typical Howie being Howie move. As angry as I was at Howie Roseman for the way he built the defense last year, you have to give him credit for picking up Isaiah Rodgers. Isaiah Rodgers was playing really damn well in Indianapolis. You look at his Pro Football Focus grades, they're through the roof. I mean, he's like in the 80s when it comes to coverage, which is phenomenal. So Isaiah Rodgers is a guy I'm excited to see this coming year. And then Zach McPherson, there were a lot of people in the Eagles organization who were excited about what Zach McPherson was going to do last year, and he blew out his Achilles in training camp. So I look at the Philadelphia Eagles cornerback room of Darius Slay, Kelee Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers, Zach McPherson, Eli Ricks. Would I like to see them add to that room? Sure. I'm not going to be angry if they go out and bring in a corner. But when I look at the defense, for me, that's number 4. We need a linebacker first. We need a safety first. Maybe 2 safeties first. And we need depth at the edge rushing position. Even if Haason Reddick and Josh Sweat both come back, you need depth at the edge rusher position. And I see Gary Williams talking about Bradley on TikTok. If you're talking about Sean Bradley, when you're talking about Sean Bradley, he's a free agent and he's really only been a special teamer his entire career. But I look at this Philadelphia Eagles defense, and for me, with all this money to spend, with all the money they have to spend in free agency, I'm going with the linebacker position first. And the guy I want, there's a few of them out there. You got Frankie Laveau from Carolina. You have Jordan Brooks from Seattle. The guy I want is Patrick Queen. That's my dream scenario, Patrick Queen. Because he's still extremely young. Extremely young. I don't even think he's hit his prime yet. I don't think he's even scratched the surface of his potential. When you look at Patrick Queen and you look at his Pro Football Focus grades, he's gotten better every single season in his first 4 years, with last year being his best season ever. And I'm expecting him to take another leap next year. So I want to see Patrick Queen in Midnight Green and Kelly Green next year. So that's my dream number 1, Patrick Queen. And I still want them to address the linebacker position in the draft, but you can't go into this season with a unknown Nakobe Dean, an unknown draft pick. You don't know if he's going to be any good. Ben Van Sumeren, you got to make a splash. And I see people saying, no, stop the madness. Come on. Patrick Queen is the guy they should be targeting, a guy who can come in here right away and be a difference maker at the linebacker position. Now, my other dream at safety, which I'm going to say is a complete pipe dream because I can't see it happening, is Antoine Winfield Jr. I don't think there's a chance in hell Tampa Bay is going to let him out of the building. They're going to franchise tag him. They're going to do whatever they have to do. But, man, we can dream right now. That's what we're doing. We're dreaming because free agency is still 2 weeks away, and this is the most exciting time of the year. Outside of the games, free agency and the draft are the most exciting times. So I'm dreaming if they could get Patrick Queen and Antoine Winfield Jr., you think I'm Billy Spadaro now. Wait until how positive I'd be if they pull that one off. But even if they can't get Winfield, because like I said, linebacker's number one for me, safety's number two. There's some other guys that they may be able to get. Cameron Curl from Washington, Xavier McKinney from the Giants, Geno Stone from Baltimore, Kyle Duggar from New England. So there's some options that they could go get, but I want to see them get younger. That's why I like Patrick Queen. That's why I like Antoine Winfield Jr. I want a youth movement on this defense. And that's why I'm okay at corner with some of these younger guys, Isaiah Rodgers and Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks. And then even before corner for me on defense is edge rusher. Because we've talked about this before on the show. Even if you bring back Josh Sweat, who's in the final year of his deal, I expect him to get extended. Haason Reddick, who needs a new deal because he's unhappy and his cap hit's too high. But even if you extend both those guys, which I think is what's going to happen, even if you extend Reddick and Sweat, they need depth. They need another pass rusher, another guy who can get after the quarterback. You saw what happened last year when all you had were Reddick and Sweat. They hit a wall at the end of the season. And I know we still have Nolan Smith waiting in the wings. I'm hopeful that Nolan Smith can take a leap this year, but we don't know. We didn't see enough of him. So I want to see them bring in another edge rusher. And there's some big names out there. I don't know if they would get them, like Brian Burns from Carolina or Daniel Hunter from Minnesota, Bryce Huff from the Giants. A lot of people are talking about Van Ginkel from Miami because of his connection with Vic Fangio, and he can both be an edge rusher and can even drop back and play some linebacker, which is interesting. But I see in the chat someone mentioning Chase Young. And I've said this before on this show. I don't want Chase Young. Because we just saw Chase Young on a San Francisco 49ers team where Young was not the main focus of the offense trying to block him because they had Nick Bosa and they had Javon Hargrave and they had Eric Armstead. And Chase Young, even probably getting single blocked the majority of the time, couldn't take over games. Couldn't do it. You put Chase Young on a defensive line with Hargrave, Armstead, and Bosa. Chase Young should have been an absolute wrecking ball, and he barely flashed. He barely flashed. Looks like he takes too many plays off. So I'm not in on the Chase Young, man. I don't want Chase Young. I don't want him at all. I would take a Van Ginkel over Chase Young, in my opinion. And the big splash would be a Brian Burns, a Daniel Hunter, a Josh Allen from Jacksonville. Now, the Eagles, if they're unable to come to an agreement with Haason Reddick, if they can't extend him and they end up trading him, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Reddick will be here under a new deal. But if for some reason he's not, well, then you'll see the Eagles go all in on one of these guys. They'll make a big splash for the Josh Allens or the Brian Burns of the world. They may not do that if they extend Reddick, but we'll see. But that's my order of priorities on the defense. I'm going linebacker, safety, edge rusher, and then I would address corner. Now, they're going to have enough money They're going to have enough money once they restructure some deals, once they take care of the Kevin Byard deal. They're going to have enough money that they really can do whatever the hell they want. Because of the way Howie Roseman structured the Jalen Hurts contract, his cap hit never gets that big over the next couple of years. So other teams who are completely handcuffed by their franchise quarterback, that's not the Eagles. But, this Eagles organization's terrible. They don't know what the hell they're doing. I forgot about that. Freaking ridiculous. Anyway, you look at this team, you look at the cap space, and you look at the needs, and I think next week, or 2 weeks from now, I should say, March 11th, when the legal tampering period opens, you're going to see the Philadelphia Eagles be big-time players. And we'll continue to talk more about that. We have a couple of weeks. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be joined by Kayla Santiago, like she does every Wednesday. So I got to confirm with her. But like we end every Philly Sports Power Hour, and I appreciate all you being here, even those in the chat who are overly negative for no reason. No basis of fact at all. You know what's funny, though? This is what bothers me. The Jalen Hurts haters do the same thing. You guys are doing the same thing that are being overly negative. Is we can't just look at one season, right? You can't just look at one season and make opinions about stuff. So you can't say Jalen Hurts was so good because he played so well in 2022. But what we can do is we can just look at the last 7 games last year, and we can call this Philadelphia Eagles organization, who's had a ton of success over the last 18 years with Jeffrey Lurie, and we can say that the organization is terrible because of 7 games. Interesting. It's an interesting argument. Anyway, today in sports history, February 27th, 1987, SMU became the first and only football program in collegiate athletic history to receive the death penalty for repeat violations of the NCAA rules. They were literally suspended. They terminated the 1987 season, the death penalty, and SMU has never been able to recover from that death penalty. Anyway, I'm still getting upset. I see you guys in the chat. I don't see how I'm the delusional one. I'm the delusional one because I'm citing to actual facts and numbers. But you and everybody else can just throw things out that have no basis of fact, and you're not delusional. Anyway. All right, my peeps. Hit that like button for me. Hit that share button for me. We'll be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. This was the Philly Sports Power Hour. I'm Bill Colarulo. And as always, go Birds.
Go for the poles and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.